Hello everyone, this video is about pediatric cardiology. I have given 40 questions and answers which are useful both for theory and clinical examination. Question number 1. How is heart size assessed in older children on a chest X-ray? Answer is cardiothoracic ratio. As you can see in the figure, it is derived by comparing largest transverse diameter of the heart to the widest internal diameter of the chest. So cardiothoracic ratio is equal to A plus B divided by C. A CT ratio of more than 0.5 indicates cardiomegaly. Question 2. What are the common cardiac causes of congestive heart failure in a 6-week-old infant? Answer is ventricular septal defect, atrioventricular canal defect, patent ductus arteriosus, or coarctation of aorta. Now, what are typical ages for presentation of congestive heart failure with congenital heart disease? Now, as a general rule, large volume overload lesion, for example, Epstein anomaly or arteriovenous malformation, presents soon after birth, while ductal dependent lesion present in the first week when the duct closes, and lesion with significant left to right shunting presents over first 1 to 2 months as normal pulmonary vascular resistance fall with increased systemic to pulmonary shunting. Question 4. If a patient develops congestive heart failure and cardiomegaly during the newborn period but no heart murmur is heard, what is the differential diagnosis? Answer is myocarditis, cardiomyopathy as a result of asphyxia or sepsis, glycogen storage disease, that is Pompe disease, cardiac arrhythmia such as paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, congenital heart block or atrial flutter, and arteriovenous malformation, for example in liver or vein of Galen. Question number 5. When should amiodarone not be used as a first-line therapy in patients with ventricular tachycardia? Answer is in patient with torsade T points, that is polymorphic ventricular tachycardia with a long QT interval, or with ventricular tachycardia and a long QT interval. Amiodarone should not be used. Amiodarone is a class 3 antiarrhythmic agent and will lengthen the QT interval, predisposing patient to further arrhythmias. Now question number 6. A 5-year-old girl 2 weeks after an uncomplicated repair of a secundum atrial septal defect present with fever, respiratory distress and a history of need to sleep sitting up since discharge. What is the diagnosis of immediate concern? Answer is post-pericardiotomy syndrome and pericardial effusion. Post-pericardiotomy syndrome typically occurs between 7 to 21 days after any surgical procedure which opens the pericardial space. The symptoms may include fever, chest pain, irritability, dyspnea, and a preference for sitting up. Physical examination may show fever, tachycardia, increased respiratory rate, hypotension with decreased pulse pressure, muffled heart sounds, distended neck veins, hepatomegaly, and pulsus paradoxus. Question number 7. How does supraventricular tachycardia in children differ from physiologic sinus tachycardia? Supraventricular tachycardia typically has the following features: sudden onset and termination rather than gradual change in rate, persistent ventricular rate of more than 180 beats per minute, fixed or almost fixed RR interval on ECG, abnormal P wave shape or axis or absent P waves, little change in heart rate with activity, crying or breath holding. Question number 8. When are isolated premature ventricular contractions usually benign in an otherwise healthy school-age child? Answer. Structurally normal heart, ECG interval especially QTC are normal, no evidence of myocarditis, cardiomegaly or ventricular tumor, no history of drug use, electrolytes and glucose are normal, and ectopy decreases exercise. Question 9. Name 2 most common mechanisms of supraventricular tachycardia. Answer is Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome due to an accessory bypass tract, and second is AV nodal re-entry. Question number 10. What are the clinical settings in which supraventricular tachycardia may occur? Answer is in structurally normal heart, accessory bypass tract or AV nodal re-entry. Congenital heart diseases, for example, Epstein anomaly, L transposition of great arteries with ventricular septal defect and pulmonic stenosis, and after Fontaine's procedure. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathy, drug-induced, that is sympathomimetics, infections such as myocarditis or hyperthyroidism. Question 11. What is the lethal arrhythmia of Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome? Lethal arrhythmia in patients with Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome is atrial fibrillation with a rapid ventricular response that degenerates into ventricular fibrillation. Rate of ventricular response in these patients is dependent on effective refractory period of the accessory pathway and not the AV node. Question number 12. Which diagnostic manifestation of Kawasaki disease is most commonly absent? Cervical lymphadenopathy in both complete and incomplete Kawasaki disease is most commonly absent. Up to 90% of patients with incomplete disease and up to 40 to 50% of those who meet the classic criteria for the Kawasaki disease do not have lymphadenopathy. Question number 13. What laboratory tests are often abnormal in the first 7 to 10 days of Kawasaki disease? Answer is complete blood count may show elevated WBC count with neutrophilia and progressive normochromic normocytic anemia. Platelet count increases and peaks in second to third week of illness. Urine analysis may show pyuria with bacteriuria. Acute phase reactants, that is C-reactive protein and ESR, are elevated in 80% of the cases. Blood chemistry may show mild increase in hepatic transaminases, low serum sodium, protein or albumin. CSF may show pleocytosis, usually lymphocytic, with normal protein and glucose. Question number 14. What is post-coactectomy syndrome? This is a rare complication following repair of coarctation of aorta. Pathophysiology is believed to be secondary to mesenteric vasoconstriction following surgery. It is most commonly seen in older children with preoperative hypertension. It occurs in early postoperative period and typically presents with hypertension, abdominal pain and distension. Intestinal ischemia and infarction can result. Question number 15. You are seeing a newborn with a heart murmur and parents tell you that their obstetrician had obtained a fetal cardiac ultrasound which was reported as normal. Now could this newborn still have a heart disease? Answer is yes. Because of nature of fetal circulation, fetal study may not rule out some infant with ventricular septal defect, atrial septal defect, PTA, coarctation of aorta or coronary artery abnormalities. Now, what are the sum of genetic diseases which are associated with pulmonary valve stenosis or pulmonary artery branch stenosis? Answer is Noonan syndrome, Williams syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, maternal rubella syndrome, Costello syndrome, and cardiofaciocutaneous syndrome. Question number 17. What is the difference between isotonic and isometric exercises? Isotonic exercise is dynamic exercise, for example running, whereas isometric exercise is static, for example lifting weight. Static exercises causes pressure overload on the heart, so dynamic exercises is usually preferred for patients with congenital heart diseases. Question number 18. What are some of the reasons to surgically close a ventricular septal defect? Answer is chronic respiratory failure secondary to heart failure, chronic heart failure, prevention of pulmonary vascular obstructive disease, growth failure secondary to chronic heart failure, persistent left heart volume overload with chronic cardiomegaly, aortic valve prolapse with aortic valve insufficiency, and recurrent endocarditis. Question number 19. In what type of cardiac surgery is complication of protein losing enteropathy more common? And the answer is Fontaine procedure. Protein losing enteropathy, which occur in 2 to 10% of these cases, is manifested by variable decrease of ascites, peripheral edema, diarrhea, malabsorption of fat, and hypoalbuminemia. Cardiac function is often normal in this patient and causes an abnormal flow dynamics in the mesenteric vasculature, secondary to high pressure in the Fontaine circulation. Question number 20. What are the most common rhythm disturbances after Fontaine procedure? First is loss of sinus rhythm with either a non-sinus atrial rhythm or junctional rhythm. And second is intra-atrial re-entrant tachycardia. It was more common following old-style Fontaine procedure because of the incisional scar and size of atrium. Although less common with newer surgical technique, it still remains a major clinical problem in this patient. Question number 21. What are potential red flags that increase likelihood of a cardiac cause for chest pain? Answer is personal history of acquired or congenital cardiac disease, exertional syncope, exertional cardiac type chest pain, which is centrally located with radiation to left arm or jaw, crushing pain or heaviness, hypercoagulable or hypercholesterolemic state, family history of sudden death less than 35 years, young onset ischemic heart disease, inherited arrhythmia such as long QT syndrome or connective tissue disorder. Now, what connective tissue diseases may be associated with mitral valve prolapse? These include Marfan syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, pseudoxanthoma elasticum, osteogenesis imperfecta, and Hurler syndrome. Now, what mineral is added to hyperalimentation fluids to prevent a potential cardiomyopathy? Answer is selenium. It is added to long-term hyperalimentation fluids to prevent selenium deficiency, which can be a cause of both skeletal weakness and cardiomyopathy. This acquired heart disease has also been described in patients with AIDS, chronic diarrhea, and wasting disease. It is typically reversible with addition of selenium to diet or intravenous fluids. Name 5 disorders in which a screening ECG might identify a subject at risk for sudden death. Answer is Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Short PR interval delta waves, T wave abnormalities can lead to SVT and ventricular fibrillation. Second is prolonged QT syndromes, lead to ventricular tachycardia and torsade T points. Third is Brugada syndrome. In this, right ventricular conduction delay with prolonged ST elevation in V1 to V3 is present, and this can lead to ventricular fibrillation. Fourth is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and fifth condition is atrioventricular block. Now, what is the likely diagnosis in a 10-year-old little player who develops sudden cardiac arrest after being struck in chest by a batted baseball? The answer is commotio cordis. It is a life-threatening arrhythmia that occurs as a result of blunt, non-penetrating direct blow to the chest. Now, the precordial force is often only low or moderate and typically not associated with any structural injury. Ventricular fibrillation is thought to occur when impact is applied during the vulnerable phase of repolarization, which occurs 30 to 50 milliseconds before the peak of T wave. Now, what are the most common clinical signs of coarctation of aorta in older children? The answer is differential blood pressure, that is, blood pressure in the arms is greater than legs, systolic murmur or bruit in the back, systolic hypertension in the upper extremities, diminished or absent femoral or lower extremity pulses. Question 27. What cardiac lesions can lead to thrombosis and stroke? Answer is arrhythmias, that is chronic atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter. Second is cardiomyopathy, then mechanical valves, patient with Fontaine circulation, patient with systemic to pulmonary shunts such as Blaylock tossing shunt, and patient with Kawasaki disease with coronary aneurysm. Now, what are 2 common neuromuscular diseases in which a cardiac consultation is routinely recommended? First is Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Symptoms of cardiomyopathy are typically hidden by skeletal myopathy that mask any exercise-induced complaints such as shortness of breath with exertion. And second is Friedreich ataxia. Cardiac abnormalities include both dilated and concentric cardiomyopathy. Atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter are also common. Question 29. In a patient with suspected heart disease, what bony abnormalities seen on a chest radiograph increase likelihood of a specific congenital heart disease? Hemivertebrae or rib anomalies may be associated with tetralogy of Fallot, truncus arteriosus, or vectoral syndrome. Skeletal chest deformities such as scoliosis, pectus excavatum, or narrow anteroposterior diameter may be associated with Marfan syndrome and mitral valve prolapse. Bilateral rib notching may be present in coarctation of aorta in older children. Now, how do pulmonary vascular markings on a chest radiograph help in differential diagnosis of a cyanotic newborn with suspected cardiac disease? Decreased pulmonary vascular markings or decreased pulmonary blood flow is present in pulmonary atresia or severe stenosis, tetralogy of Fallot, tricuspid atresia, or Epstein anomaly. An increased pulmonary vascular marking, that is increased pulmonary blood flow, is present in transposition of the great arteries, total anomalous pulmonary venous return, and truncus arteriosus. What chest radiographic findings are considered characteristic for various congenital heart diseases? Boot-shaped heart is present in tetralogy of Fallot. Egg-shaped heart is characteristic of transposition of great arteries. Snowman silhouette is present in total anomalous pulmonary venous return, especially the supracardiac lesion. And rib notching is characteristic of coarctation of aorta, especially in older children. Now, what are the common ductal dependent cardiac lesions? Ductal dependent pulmonary blood flow occurs in critical pulmonary valve stenosis, pulmonary atresia, tetralogy of Fallot with severe pulmonary stenosis, tricuspid atresia with pulmonary stenosis or pulmonary atresia. Ductal dependent systemic blood flow occurs in coarctation of aorta, hypoplastic left heart syndrome, or interrupted aortic arch. Question 33. What is the primary concern of pediatric cardiologist if a child with large VSD is lost to follow-up and come back after 2 years of age? Child with a large VSD can develop irreversible pulmonary vascular disease as a sequelae of long-term increased pulmonary blood flow and pulmonary hypertension. This is known as Eisenmenger syndrome. This complication is usually preventable if VSD is closed before 18 to 24 months of age. What are some of the common presenting symptoms in older children with primary pulmonary hypertension? In early stages of primary pulmonary hypertension, children are asymptomatic at rest. He or she may present with symptoms such as fatigue, dyspnea, chronic cough, and shortness of breath with exercise. They may also present with chest pain, syncope, and atypical seizures. Now, what examination features are suggestive of pulmonary hypertension? The features include right ventricular heave or lift, suggestive of right ventricular hypertrophy. Pulmonary component of the second heart sound is usually loud. A grade 1 to 2 diastolic decrescendo murmur of pulmonary insufficiency at the left upper sternal border, and a grade 1 to 2 hollow systolic murmur of tricuspid insufficiency is present at left lower sternal border. Eventually, signs of right heart failure with peripheral edema, neck vein distension, ascites, and hepatomegaly may develop. Now, what occurs during a TET spell? TET spells are hypercyanotic episodes that occur in patients with tetralogy of Fallot. Spells may be initiated by events that cause a decrease in systemic vascular resistance, such as fever, crying, or hypotension, or by the events that cause an increase in pulmonary outflow tract obstruction. Both types of these events lead to more right to left shunting, increased cyanosis, metabolic acidosis, and systemic vasodilation. Now, anemia may be a predisposing factor. Although most episodes are self-limited, a prolonged TET spell can lead to stroke or death. Question 37. Name 2 conditions in which murmur has disappeared or diminished in intensity, and yet patient is actually getting worse. First condition is tetralogy of Fallot. Systolic heart murmur represent blood flow across the narrow right ventricular outflow tract, with worsening right ventricular outflow tract obstruction, or during a cyanotic spell, less blood crosses the valve, and heart murmur consequently diminish and may actually disappear completely. And second condition is VSD with Eisenmenger syndrome. Left to right shunt across the VSD diminish because of increase in pulmonary vascular resistance. Heart murmur lessens and may disappear. A honeymoon period with no shunting is then followed by progression of increased right to left shunting and cyanosis. Pulmonary component of the second heart sound begin to increase in intensity, and visible cyanosis and clubbing of nail beds are often seen. After what age does a presumed peripheral pulmonic branch stenosis murmur deserve more detailed study? Murmur of peripheral pulmonic branch stenosis is a low-intensity systolic ejection murmur. It is heard frequently in newborns as a result of relative hypoplasia of pulmonary arteries as well as acute angle of branching of the pulmonary arteries in early newborn period. A murmur which persists beyond the 6 months of age should be investigated. Identify clinical signs and symptoms associated with congestive heart failure in children. These may be grouped into 3 categories. First is the signs and symptoms of impaired myocardial performance. These include cardiomegaly, tachycardia, gallop rhythm, cold extremities or mottling, growth failure, sweating with feeding or pallor. Second is signs and symptoms of pulmonary congestion. These include tachypnea, wheezing, rales, cyanosis, dyspnea and cough. Third is signs and symptoms of systemic venous congestion. These include hepatomegaly, neck vein distension, peripheral edema, especially seen in older patients. And the last question is, what are the indications for prostaglandin E1 in a neonate? Prostaglandin E1 is indicated in cardiac lesions that depend on a PDA to maintain adequate pulmonary or systemic blood flow or to promote adequate mixing. So first condition is inadequate pulmonary blood flow, which may be present in pulmonary atresia with intact ventricular septum, tricuspid atresia with intact ventricular septum, or critical pulmonary stenosis. Second is the inadequate systemic blood flow, for example in critical coarctation of aorta or hypoplastic left heart syndrome. And third is the inadequate mixing, for example in transposition of great vessels. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel.